Doing a tutorial for the main dashboard as you can see on your screen. So I did this last year, but we're gonna do it again. I'm gonna actually go just try to make these short. I'm gonna keep an eye on the clock here, maybe like 10-15 minutes. So we're gonna go thing by thing. We're gonna just do pitchers here since that's more interesting early in the season to get pitcher data, and I think it's more stuff with pitching anyway, but we'll come back to another video to do more. So if you're a paid subscriber, you have access to this dashboard. This is just a copy of it because I don't want to show off the real URL, So what we have here, we're just probably going to stick to this pitchers tab and maybe the Arsenals tab as well. So a lot of people get kind of overwhelmed with it. First thing off the top, the Stuff Plus isn't here yet. I'm kind of working with Drew to get that data in this year, get that flowing, but I guess he's busy, so we haven't gotten that yet. So no Stuff Plus yet this year, but it'll show up eventually, I hope. Well, a lot of people do get a little bit intimidated with this, with all the drop downs and stuff. And yeah, it makes sense, but I understand. Yeah, like it's confusing and kind of hard to use and clunky, but really you can use it simply and just look at the numbers. You kind of should know all the numbers, and you can sort and basic filters like this. Like obviously, Fernando Cruz has a 32% swinging strike rate to lead the league, but that's because he only has 28 pitches. So if you're like, okay, well, let's keep it to guys with at least 75 pitches. And right now we're only like a week into the season when I'm recording this, so not a lot of data samples here. Not the best time to do a tutorial, but a good time for it because a lot of new subscribers, and this is kind of the main big resource I started with. And this kind of all got me started. Fun stuff. So let's talk about it. First, some of the columns that aren't as familiar. So strike, ball, BIP. I talk about this a ton in the notes and stuff. These three things add up to 100% for every pitcher. Every pitch you throw goes into one of these three categories. It's either a strike, a ball, or a ball in play. Pretty self-explanatory there, right? Foul balls count as strikes. Anything that goes into play, like as the end of a plate appearance, that's a BIP, a ball in play. K and walk ratio, self-explanatory. OPS allowed, that's OPS allowed, obviously. Plate appearances per home run, that's how often they give up home run. It's kind of my favorite measure of how many home runs they're giving up. I could do home runs per 9 innings, but innings get a little bit tough because one thing I've mentioned before as well is that with the Baseball Savant data, intentional walks don't get in here because you don't have to throw a pitch. The way data gets into the Baseball Savant data, which is the base of all of this, of most of the stuff I do, is a pitch has to be thrown and then a row goes into a table, and then we use that huge table of data. But if no pitch is thrown in the case of an intentional walk or intentional ball, then it doesn't get in there. So some of these walk rates will be wrong slightly because it doesn't count the intentional, which I actually think is better because you really, if you're talking about evaluating a pitcher, you don't even really want to hurt them. They shouldn't really be, their skills shouldn't be thought less of because they intentionally walked somebody. That wasn't really even their call most of the time, right? And it doesn't say anything about their command or anything like that. So I kind of like that. Anyway, plate appearance per home run, again, it's a good win to see who's giving up home runs. Note that if anybody has not given up a home run, it'll just be blank, so they won't show up at the top. Other people have been better than you, Darvish, at not giving up home runs because they haven't given up any, but eventually, a number goes in there as soon as you give up one home run. And this black bold grand total row at the top, this is the league averages, which is really nice to have. So you can see like, okay, well, what is a good number here? And you can see that right at the top for everybody. Barrel rate given up, I think we know that one. Expected WOBA, that's kind of just your, if you know, you should know that one. And if you don't, it's not that big of a deal. You can Google it. BABIP, that's the batting average on balls in play, discounting home runs, doesn't count home runs, and then ground ball, line drive, etc. All right, so let's say that you wanted to do some more advanced stuff here. The first thing I like to use this for is for like finding qualifiers, right? So if I wanted to just see, okay, who is really getting a ton of whiffs. So if I'm interested in swinging strikes, I want to say, let's show me everybody with at least a 15% swinging strike rate. So put in 0.15, you have to think in percent decimals terms there. And there you go. The list updates, and it gets rid of every pitcher that does not have a swinging strike rate of at least 15%. So you can see if you sort that ascending, the lowest is Ryan Feltner at 15.1%, and you get your result there. So then at the same time, you can say, okay, well, who's doing that and also not really walking anybody? I don't know, 0.06 walk rate. Let's say that 6% walk rate. And here's your not many results, kind of what 25, 30 or something there, maybe 20. So you're good. And you take a screenshot of that. You can take a picture of it, whatever, and kind of run with it there. So that's one of the main uses of it, just to kind of see almost querying things like who's doing this and this at the same time, etc. And you could sort, obviously, and do all kinds of stuff like that. There's game start thing here. So, okay, we'll just show me guys that have made 2 starts already. That's really hardly anybody at this point of the season. But just put in 1 start, that'll get rid of most of the relievers, besides the openers. An opener will sneak in there every once in a while. This is batter's face. If you want to just show me, okay, who's faced at least 50 batters this year and done whatever, that's how you do that. And stuff like that. So now the other big use of it is for getting like very splitty situational stats. And this is where these other drop downs come into play. So maybe you want to see, who is having, I don't know, what should we pick? There's Park here as well, of course, and this isn't even a full list at this point because not all teams have posted a home game, but you can go see, this dropping it down. This will limit all the pitching data to just guys that have thrown pitches in New York and Citi Field, and then still, I don't know if we can get rid of that minimum pitches thrown filter there too. So that's self-explanatory. I think you can search for any pitcher you want here. You can select multiple to compare just by checking, if we want to compare Puck to Nola or Uribe or something like that. Check those 3 names, and here's all your numbers. One thing to be sure you're doing is if you put on a filter and you want to do something new, go up and hit this little X button that gets rid of the filter to clear everything else, or otherwise you'll be searching for stuff without all the results being there at the beginning. So let's say that you wanted to see, okay, well, what happens when hitters are swinging? So swinging strike rate is a good example of this. Swinging strike rate is the number of whiffs you get divided by the total number of pitches, but we also have the stat whiff rate, which is whiff rate is the number of whiffs you get divided by the number of swings you generate. So that is a different metric. It's kind of telling you, well, when a hitter is really trying to hit the pitch, how good is the pitcher at not allowing them to do so. So this filter, you can drop down swing, you can put that at 1. I know, sorry, that's really not user-friendly. I'm kind of thinking in computer terms here, binary 0, 1, 0 meaning no, 1 meaning yes. You'll see that a few times over here. So that's something you have to remember. 1 is yes, 0 is no. So we put 1 here. This will take out all of the pitches. It just immediately removes all the rows of pitches that were pitches that the hitter did not swing at. And we'll probably need to drop down the filter a little bit because most guys have only made 1 start and they probably didn't throw 75 pitches that got swung at. Maybe even drop down to 40. So all of a sudden this swinging strike rate column becomes, the name doesn't change. I'm not able to do that, like dynamically changing column names. But what you're looking at now is what percent of the time on these pitches was a swinging strike generated. And since we've filtered it to just those swinging pitches, then this effectively turns into whiff rate. So Jared Jones here leading the league after that 1 start, 45.8% of his of the 45.8% of the pitches that hitters swung at, they swung and missed. That's obviously a crazy high number, not likely to stick around. You'll notice that the game start went to 0 here for him, and like you're like, whoa, this is wrong because Jones started the game. Yeah, but the problem is that I took out all of the rows where there was not a swing. So what this means is that Jones's first pitch of the game was not swung at. So if I would change this to 0, you're going to see that go back to 1. And that's just because I have to, just the nature of it. You don't really, I guess I don't have to explain it, but yeah, if you see things like that, it's not that it's wrong. You just have to keep in mind what filters you have on. So I define the game start as anytime I see a pitcher throwing the first pitch of the first inning, I put a 1 for that pitch. Okay, this started his game. Therefore, the row for Jones where that game start value was 1 was one of the rows where a swing didn't occur. Similarly, we can look at what happens when a hitter makes contact. Maybe you're interested to see who's controlling contact. This one you're really going to need to drop down the filters and stuff. You pretty much want a clean filter slate here. So let's say that we're looking at hitters that put balls in play or actually this might include foul balls as well. But let's say, okay, at least 10 batters. Let's say at least allowed 10 balls to be contacted. And then you can look at this here. So you obviously don't get all the swinging strike rates go to 0 because you don't get a whiff on those. You don't get a strike. You don't get a ball. All of these go to 0, and it's 100% ball in play. So never mind, it's not foul balls. That kind of answers the question. So this is only what's happening when pitchers are allowing the balls to go in play. Obviously, the league OPS is going to go way up in that situation. If you take away all the strikeouts, league OPS goes way up, so that makes sense. Your 8.5 barrel rate doesn't change because nothing is counted for barrel rate unless a ball is put in play. But now you can see like xWOBA. Let's say, okay, so who's allowing the hardest contact? And this is crazy noisy after 1 or 2 starts, of course. But this is how you do that. You could go see xWOBA on contact by doing this, selecting 1 on contact, and then sorting and filtering and stuff like that. So Ronald Blanco obviously throwing that no-hitter with his 0 BABIP there on contact and stuff like that. So you see the highest BABIP. That won't actually change, I don't think, no matter if you have that on anyway, but besides the filter stuff. Okay, and then you can change your counts too. You can say, maybe this might be a little bit more interesting if you're just like picking one dude. So let's go to, how much time do I have? I'm going to go about 5 more minutes. Let's go to Jared Jones, and let's say if we're just really interested in digging into that first start. Clear all the filters again, see how there was nothing there until I cleared that filter I had put on. So let's say, I don't know, what did he do? How good was he when he had 2 strikes on a guy? So we can do that. This filters all of the data just to the rows where there were 2 strikes when that pitch was thrown, meaning 0-2, 1-2, 2-2, or 3-2. Only threw 30 pitches in that situation, which is actually pretty darn good for one start, getting 2 strikes on people that often, obviously. Once he got... Well, okay, and then this is kind of where it gets a little bit tricky. Although no, it doesn't, because just because there's 2 strikes on the batter doesn't mean that the next pitch ended the plate appearance, which could be a ball or a foul ball or anything like that. But this is just saying when a plate appearance ended, when they're on the pitch where there were 2 strikes, 67% of the time it was a strikeout, leaving. And then he seemed to have walked 1 guy there with 2 strikes on him, obviously a full count there. So yeah, you can let's look at that full count. Okay, so he got into a 3-2 count. Clear that, another filter there, you see. If I could click the button. No, okay, maybe he didn't get into a full count then, so maybe that's a never mind there. But 2-2, does that bring anything? All right, I'm not sure what's happening. He must just not have gotten into any of those counts. So, okay, so that is that. This is a filter that's not working right now. I will fix it soon, just to kind of filter out starters or relievers. Again, some of these guys are wrong right now. In zone, here's another one. In zone, 1 equals yes. So this is just what would happen when the pitches were in the strike zone. So if you want to see swinging strike rates in the zone, that's actually a pretty good one to look at. You can, put on a little bit of a limit there, 25 pitches at least in the zone. You can see Reed Detmers leads the league right now with a 32% in-zone swinging strike rate. Very good. Then you can even look at out of the zone, stuff like that. You can look at batter splits here, batter hand. You can look at certain just pitches, if you want to just filter everybody to just the 4-seam fastball. So let's say who has the highest swinging strike rate on the 4-seamer, Tariq Skubal there. Again, this is why it's good to use this pitches filter all the time. So if you just really want to get rid of some of these lower guys, you can see Pablo Lopez through 37 4-seamers had a 32% swinging strike rate on it, and that's the best so far. You can look at curveballs too, or something like that, like who threw 35 curveballs, probably not too many people. Maybe drop that down to 25, add a few more names there, and you can just kind of see each individual pitch and how they're working and stuff, and all these stats update. You just really have to learn the filters and keep in mind what you have on and what that means, and then you can really do a lot with this. A lot of splits here right at your fingertips. So that covers a lot of it. And then the other one that I look at the most, there's all kinds of stuff here. I mean, there's all these tabs, right, which we could spend several minutes on each of them. And if you really want to master this thing, it'll take you hours in it, but it'll really, I enjoy it, and there's a lot to learn. This was really a huge really good resource where you almost don't even need to go to any other websites after you've figured this one out. So, but anyway, Arsenal. So this kind of just breaks things down by pitch type. Let's just go back to Jared Jones, the man of the hour, and it can do it. It does kind of a, we already just showed where you can, from the main pitchers tab, look at individual pitch types, but this will show it all at once. So this will show you, it'll break everything down by pitch, and at the top it'll show you his overall. So this stuff should match his overall numbers from the last tab, but underneath it you can see how it breaks down between pitches. You can also then filter by count here. You can look at, okay, how does he attack lefties? This is pretty helpful. So what does Jones do against lefties? Four-seam slider. What's he do against righties? More of the same, but more sliders, some stuff like that. And then you can also select what happens on contact, what happens when they swing, and filter stuff like that. And home road. One thing you could do if you wanted to do home, I don't have like a home road box here, but what you can do is say, let's pick someone that has made, except I don't know who has made 2 starts. I don't know if anybody's made 1 start at home and 1 start on the road yet. But if I want to see, okay, well, what's Miles Michaelis? What's he done? Nope, not a good example because he hasn't made one yet. So if we want to see Luzardo at home, we can just pick his home park. And if we want to do on the road, this is going to be a blank result, but just to show you, I can do exclude values here with this drop down. So I can say, okay, exclude all of the rows where the home park was Miami, and this will just filter out those home starts and give you the road starts. So again, it's not intuitive, but it's a way to do that home road stuff right there. You just have to kind of be thinking and remembering that. If you want to look at compare pitch types together, you can pick a pitch type here. So four-seam fastballs again, let's look at only 30, and then this will update the list to every pitcher that's thrown at least 30 four-seam fastballs. And from there you can sort now. You can, as long as you only have 1 row per pitcher, which you will if you select a pitch type, then you can sort. You can say whose four-seamer has gone on the ground the most, who's given up the most or least home runs on it. Miller, Francis, Molina have given up 2 on the four-seamer, and then you can do that with any kind of pitch type. See who's thrown splitters. Here's the dozen pitchers or so that have even thrown a splitter, stuff like that. Filter to the splitters with at least a 50% ground ball rate, filter to, eventually you can show the high stuff plus pitches once I get that data in there, but it's not ready yet. Stuff like that. So that is it for these 2 tabs. Just kind of a reminder, really get in there, the links in the resource glossary, click around, figure it out, ask me some questions if you have any, but super good resource. Wanted to just kind of make it, advertise a little bit and show how to use it, and we'll do more of these as we go along. So much more stuff to get to, but that's it for this one.